In this video, we will be discussing the practicality of a permanent Olympic venue for the Summer and Winter Olympic Games. We will be analysing this economically, politically, and socially to determine whether it is a feasible and a more beneficial alternative to the current Olympic structure.
The cost of bidding for and staging the Olympics has gone to the extraordinary levels, allowing only the rich nations the opportunity to bid. Some critics have, as a consequence, argued that the IOC ought to establish permanent venues for both the Summer and Winter Olympic Games. The most influential sporting organisation is the International Olympic Committee, also known as the IOC.
The Olympic Games have been the prestigious world stage for athletic performance. But the Olympics is about more than just the sport. For the athletes, the Olympic Games signify the peak of their sporting career, an achievement and recognition for their dedication, resilience, and hard work. For the spectators, it's a source of entertainment, tradition, and national pride. And for society as a whole, the Olympics are a promoter of peace, unity, health, and physical activity. However, for the nations of the world, the Olympic Games serve as a vehicle for potential social, political, and economic gain. The Olympics have come a long way since the first modern games were held in Athens in 1896, with only 43 events, 280 participants, all from 13 nations, all of which were male. Over time, the games have evolved dramatically with the accommodation of female participants, the addition of numerous events, and the inclusion of participants from more than 200 countries. The expansion of the Games gave rise to the Winter Olympics, which debuted in 1924, and are now held in alternate years to the Summer Games.
The Olympic Games is a spectacle that draws the best athletes from different countries, cultures, and religions, who provide the world with 16 days of exceptional athletic ability in a range of sports. Following this is the fans, sponsors, and broadcasters, which enables the host to attract global attention. The nation hosting the Games gains an easy avenue in increasing and enhancing their global image in a positive manner, with the most recent 2016 Olympic Games in Rio stemming to a record 3.5 billion viewers worldwide. Further, with technology enhancing rapidly, new ways of reaching a vaster audience will enable host nations to attract more views and increase in their exposure throughout the world. A major benefit to the Olympics is the influx of employment opportunities that arise. These opportunities include contracting jobs for building the infrastructure leading up to the event, and part-time or casual jobs aiding in the effective running of the Games. Within the UK, the hosting of the London Olympic Games created employment opportunities for an estimated 100,000 people, decreasing the unemployment rate and hitting a record low of 7.9%. After the completion of the Games, the Olympic venues often accommodate national and local sporting events, concerts, and festivals, acting as a multi-purpose venue for the host nation. An example of an Olympic venue is the Sydney Olympic Park that was built for the 2000 Olympic Games. This venue, with the inclusion of others, has allowed Sydney to host major events such as the Rugby World Cup, the Asian Cup, and also music concerts, which have furthered the growth and legacy. Alternatively, there are negative impacts that can occur through hosting the Olympic Games. The Games are an expensive route for a country to travel down. This can be seen with the Rio Summer Games costing $4.58 billion and the Sochi Winter Games costing an astounding $22 billion. Questions arise to its true economic benefit or whether the money could be better invested elsewhere. Furthermore, the infrastructure that is required to host the Games is vast and expensive to build, along with the costs of maintaining the venues after the Games. This is highlighted through the Bird's Nest in Beijing, which has an annual maintenance cost of $11 million, to venues in Rio that are now vacant, run down, and not in use. Another issue is the Olympian housing that was built to a high standard to accommodate the athletes, staff, and media. The aim is to sell the housing at a high market value to counter the cost of construction or make a profit. This often fails to occur, with housing getting neglected, run down, ultimately adding to the overall cost of hosting the Games.
The International Olympic Committee is responsible for determining the eligibility of potential host cities and the dispersing of revenue. Despite the IOC's awareness of detrimental effects hosting can have on cities, very little has been done to support them. The cost associated with hosting the Games has reached an all-time high, and as a result, economists have debated that it is time for the IOC to step in and establish a permanent venue. One concept that economists have developed is the idea of an Olympic island. This removes the burden on host cities to fork up substantial amounts of money to accommodate the Olympic Games. Essentially, this puts the responsibility on the IOC to host the Games, allowing them to have more control over the event. Centralizing the Games into one venue promotes profit, reduces the potential for debt, and avoids political interference. Alternatively, some economists have suggested that each of the Olympic events should be scattered throughout the world, essentially sharing the love, where events such as beach volleyball would be hosted in Rio, a country with actual sandy beaches, or swimming to Australia and fencing to Italy, where each of these events are most popular. Each event would be hosted by separate countries, however they would be run over the same 16-day period, like the current Olympic structure. This promotes the idea of reducing the financial burden on host cities, while also promoting national pride and worldwide involvement.
For a city to host the Olympic Games, they need sufficient infrastructure to not only accommodate the specific sporting events, but also the influx of athletes, coaching staff, spectators, and media representatives attending the Games. Often the host cities do not have appropriate infrastructure in place and therefore need to build or update existing structures, which in turn requires substantial investments of taxpayers' money. The last Olympic Games in Sochi and Rio had a combined cost of almost $30 billion, which only 13% of funding was provided by the IOC. The establishment of a permanent venue would remove the immense monetary pressure that is placed on host cities. So would it be economically feasible to have a permanent location? With only one city hosting the Games, the cost would be minimal, as there would already be existing infrastructure in place. An evident example is Los Angeles. For the 2028 Summer Games, who have established a budget a fraction of the cost in comparison to cities such as Sochi and Rio. This promotes economic profit, while reducing potential debt, an issue which has plagued many host cities such as Athens and Montreal, who took 30 years to pay off the debt incurred from hosting the Games. However, there are costs associated with having a permanent venue that cannot be overlooked. These are associated with the upkeep and maintenance of arenas, transport, and other infrastructure that is used during the time of the events. For example, the Water Cube in Beijing, which held the swimming events, requires $1.5 million in annual maintenance. Having a permanent location places restrictions on the host city economically, limiting their investments into other avenues such as hospitals, educations, and emergency services. But in the scheme of things, these maintenance costs are only a fraction of the cost compared to those that cities are spending in recent times. In terms of economics, a permanent venue is feasible, as it does reduce the burden that hosting has on cities. It removes the negative effects that many of these host cities are experiencing after the Olympic Games. To further reduce this burden and cost, splitting events across the world, where one country is responsible for swimming and so on, would be more economically beneficial, allowing multiple cities to prosper at a potential profit to boost their local economy.
Quite often, the Olympic spirit clashes with the political interests of host cities. Despite the best attempts of the IOC to maintain the ideologies of the game, political interference has overwhelmed their control on many occasions. Political interference has been experienced in nearly every Olympics, from the back-and-forth boycotting of the United States and Russia to more recent issues such as Russian anti-gay laws, which have overshadowed the importance of the Games. The IOC itself has been caught up in political issues. Corruption scandals have emerged over the years, tarnishing the reputation of the organisation, particularly as a result of the bribing of members to obtain votes during the bidding process. The establishment of a permanent venue, such as the concept of an Olympic island, removes the 7-year bidding process, and with it the potential for members to be enticed with bribes. A permanent location will centralize the organisation and control of the Olympic Games, allowing the IOC to govern it more closely. An independent location such as the Olympic Islands that is removed from governments and the politics that follows them will support the vision and purpose of the Games. However, a single permanent venue with no independence to government influence opens the door for the host country to use the Games as a voice for their political views. It would detract from the overall purpose of the Games, which is to unite people through sport. Take Los Angeles, for example. Currently, Donald Trump has enforced a number of policies banning travellers from 6 Muslim countries. This conflicts directly with one of the Olympic principles, which states that any form of discrimination with regard to a country or a person on the grounds of race, religion, politics, gender, or otherwise is incompatible with belonging to the Olympic movement. One permanent venue makes the Games vulnerable to situations such as wars or other political conflicts, and provides too much political power for one nation.
The social impact of a city hosting the Olympic Games is a very important consideration. It affects not only individuals but also the broader community. The social impact for the individuals of the host city include health benefits and skills. The health benefits have increased individual sport participation, healthy living lifestyles, and their interest in the Olympic sport. The skills that the individuals are able to develop from their city being the host city of the Olympic Games is important, as it has them involved, gives them opportunities for gatherings and developing skills, employment opportunities, and also encourages volunteering involvement through the volunteering programs that are set up. Another social impact on individuals is the social capital of the Olympic Games. Individuals are able to build relationships and networks and build their communication links. The social impacts of the Olympic Games also affect the host community. Socially, there are many impacts to the community when their host city has won the right to host the Olympic Games. Hosting the Olympic Games brings the community together in various ways. They are brought together through social inclusion, social integration, reinforcing collective identities, unity, social interaction, and increased social and cultural understanding. These social impacts allow the individuals and community to feel a sense of place and pride, as well as feeling needed and valued to society whilst the Olympics are being held in their city. It would not be ideal for the host city's Olympic Committee to exclude their community in volunteering and employment at the Olympic Games, as it would create a negative impact to the Games and their host committee. The social impact of having a permanent venue for the Olympic Games cannot be underestimated. Regardless of whether there is a permanent venue or alternative option, the overall social impact will remain the same. This is due to not just those who live in the permanent host city, but those who are either dedicated or interested in attending the Olympic Games, as well as the athlete, coaching staff, and media representatives. These people will attend the Games regardless of where they are held. A significant benefit for hosting the Olympic Games incorporates national and community pride. It also provides the opportunity for a greater international profile, standing, and recognition.
In recent years, the benefits of hosting the Games has been called into question. Numerous cities have withdrawn their bids due to the excessive costs, potential debt, and other negative results associated with hosting. Economists have argued that the time has come for the IOC to seriously deliberate the idea of establishing a permanent venue. During this video, we concluded that one permanent venue is not only economically feasible, but more beneficial than the current Olympic structure. However, politically, one permanent venue poses a few issues, and would therefore not be an optimal change for the current structure. This was also the result socially. Establishing a permanent location takes away the national pride that comes with hosting the Games, but also removes the opportunity for the host city to promote physical activity and the importance of health.
Although a permanent venue would be feasible economically, it is not socially or politically. Rather than only one permanent venue, whether that be an Olympic Island, one host city, or the splitting of events, our recommendation is that a permanent venue should be established on each continent. Cities such as LA, London, Beijing, and Sydney would be perfect options, as they would be able to use existing infrastructure, therefore reaping the economic benefit that one permanent venue would have while keeping cost minimal. Additionally, this does not give one nation extensive political power, but does remove the bidding process and therefore ensures that the IOC can run smoothly and effectively without dealing with scandals such as bribes.